The galaxy had long been the playground of the Galactic Empire, its fleets endless, and its reach far beyond. The stars, any civilization that rose against it, was swiftly crushed into oblivion, leaving no trace of defiance. Yet despite its great power, there were whispers of a time when the Empire's rule would end. Some distant species would rise to challenge them. But no one took the whispers seriously. For millennia, the Empire had been unshakable, its control ironclad, and its enemies scattered to the edges of the universe. But the day came when those whispers turned into something more than just rumors. A signal was detected at the edge of Empire space. It was faint, weak, almost as though it had been lost in time. The Imperial communications officers dismissed it at first, thinking it was just an old distress beacon from a forgotten era. But as the signal persisted, they began to take notice. It was human. The language long lost after the Great Purge centuries ago suddenly appeared again. It wasn't just a transmission from a dead world. It was a message, and it was directed straight to them, a small flicker of light in the vast dark that they could not ignore at first. They tried to trace the source of the signal, but it was a ghost, nothing to follow, only that strange human code which sent shivers through the officers who decoded it as best they could. It wasn't a warning, it wasn't a call for help, it was a simple message, no more than a few words, but they were chilling enough to send a wave of unease through the Empire's leadership. "We are coming for you." The message was broadcast across the stars, and just as the Empire began to process the meaning of those words, the first human ships arrived at the edge of their space. The ships were unlike anything they had ever seen, sleek and dark, their silhouettes barely visible against the backdrop of distant stars. The Empire's commanders dismissed them at first, thinking them to be scouts or some insignificant fleet from a neighboring system. But as the human ships moved closer, they realized these were no mere explorers, they were warships, and they were entering the Empire's territory without permission. The fleet was small, but their presence was undeniable. The Empire had seen countless fleets over the centuries, but none that had arrived with such a cold confidence. The first ship broke through the outer defense perimeter, its engines glowing with an intensity that sent ripples across the Empire's sensors. The commanders watched in silence, unsure of how to respond. Their first instinct was to destroy the intruder, but it was clear the human ship wasn't afraid. It moved with purpose, almost as though it knew exactly what it was doing and where it was going. As the humans drew closer, more ships followed, their ranks growing by the minute, each one more imposing than the last. The Empire's fleet was vast and powerful, but now it felt small in comparison. Each of these human vessels exuded a strange energy, an almost unnatural calmness to them, as if they had already won long before the battle had even begun. The Empire's leaders convened in secret, unsure of what to do. They had faced rebellions before, they had crushed insurgents and minor powers with ease. But this was different. These humans were not like the others. They were not intimidated. They had come for something more than just a fight. They had come to take back what was theirs, and the Empire had no idea what was coming for them. The Empire's leaders were furious as they watched their forces crumble under the human assault. They had always prided themselves on their technological superiority and military might, but in just a few short hours they had been made to look weak and disorganized. The first defeat was a blow to their ego, but it was nothing compared to the fear that began to spread throughout the Empire's ranks. Commanders were no longer sure that victory was possible. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The Empire quickly mobilized its most advanced warships, hoping to regroup and mount a more formidable defense. But the humans were already steps ahead. The next battle took place near a gas giant at the heart of the Empire's industrial sector. The humans arrived in force this time, their ships even more intimidating than before. With a deadly precision, they positioned themselves around the gas giant like a ring of death. Their movements were synchronized and graceful, each ship responding to the others as if they were parts of a single organism. The Empire's fleets rushed in to meet them, expecting the same result as the last battle, but the humans were different this time. They didn't wait for the Empire's ships to fire first. Instead, they unleashed their weapons without warning. Every human ship opened fire in unison, their laser cannons and energy projectors, striking the Empire's fleets with a force that shattered their defenses. In an instant, entire ships were torn apart. In seconds, the Empire's commanders tried to issue orders, but their commands were useless. The humans didn't fight like traditional armies. They didn't follow the same rules of warfare. They fought with an intensity and efficiency that the Empire's military was simply not equipped to handle. The battle turned into a one-sided slaughter once again. The Empire's forces were left scrambling to regroup and retreat, but the humans weren't giving them the chance. The human ships pressed the attack, relentlessly pursuing the Empire's ships until they were cornered and destroyed. No mercy was shown. The Empire's pride and arrogance had blinded them to the reality of the situation. They had believed they were untouchable, but now they were running for their lives. The Empire's leadership met in secret to discuss their next move. Their pride had been shattered, and they had no choice but to confront the full scale of the human threat. They needed to adapt, and fast. But it wasn't just the military leaders who were worried. The Empire's civilian populations had begun to hear whispers of the human onslaught, stories of entire fleets being wiped out in hours. Rumors of humanity's advanced technology and battle tactics began to spread throughout the galaxy. The Empire tried to control the narrative, but the truth was becoming impossible to hide. The human threat was real, and it was coming for them all. Even the Empire's most loyal supporters began to question their leader's ability to protect them. Soon the once unshakable Empire found itself in a fragile state. Its military shattered, its people beginning to lose faith in the very system that had kept them in power for so long. And in the distance, humanity's fleet continued to grow stronger with each passing day as the Empire prepared for the next stage of war. They realized one terrible truth: they had no idea what humanity was truly capable of, and they were about to find out the hard way. The Empire was reeling from its repeated losses to the human fleet, and in a desperate bid to reclaim control over its galaxy, they devised a plan to strike back with overwhelming force. They would assemble their largest and most powerful battle group, yet one that would leave no room for human escape. The fleet would be led by their most experienced commanders who had fought in countless wars and seen the rise and fall of many civilizations. As the Empire gathered its forces, the humans remained calm. Their fleet continued to grow, and rumors of their advanced tactics spread like wildfire. The Empire's confidence was shaken, yet they refused to show weakness. They believed that a massive show of force would intimidate the humans into retreating. The great battle was set to take place near a dying star, in a system far from any inhabited world. The Empire's fleet arrived first, their ships massive and intimidating, lined up in perfect formation, each one bristling with weapons capable of destroying entire fleets. The human fleet was not far behind, but it was far smaller, only a few dozen ships compared to the Empire's hundreds. The Empire's commanders smirked as they looked at the approaching human fleet. They were certain this would be their moment of victory. But as the battle began, it became clear that the humans had no intention of retreating. Their ships didn't hesitate. They immediately struck with deadly force, launching coordinated attacks that sent shockwaves through the Empire's fleet. The humans moved with uncanny precision, as if they had studied every move the Empire could make before the battle even began. The Empire's ships responded in kind, launching their weapons in a barrage of energy and projectiles. But no matter how many times they fired, they found their shots missing or hitting nothing. The humans had already anticipated their movements and dodged with ease. It was as though they were one step ahead at every turn, and for every attack, the Empire launched, the humans countered with devastating force. It was clear to the Empire's commanders that this was no ordinary battle. The humans were not just skilled, they were strategic. They knew the weaknesses of the Empire's fleet and exploited them with ease. Soon the Empire's largest warships were falling one by one. Some were destroyed in moments, others had their shields drained and their systems disabled. The once mighty Imperial fleet was being torn apart by a fleet that was outnumbered and outgunned. Despite their advanced weaponry, the Empire found themselves on the defensive as the humans seemed to anticipate every move. Their ships darted in and out of formation, striking when least expected. The human fleet moved as if it were one cohesive unit, a single mind behind every action. It was a stark contrast to the Empire's rigid, hierarchical approach to war. Panic began to set in among the Empire's ranks. They had never faced an enemy like this. Before one who didn't play by the rules of war, they were used to the art of battle being a predictable affair. But with humanity, everything had changed. The once unimaginable was happening right before their eyes. The Empire was losing a battle it had believed would be an easy victory. As the last of the Empire's fleet attempted to retreat, they realized that it was too late. The humans had already positioned themselves to block every escape route, cutting off all paths for retreat. With no other options left, the Empire's fleet had no choice but to surrender in the face of humanity's undeniable might. The Empire's surrender was a bitter pill to swallow. The once mighty leaders were forced to face the reality of their situation. For centuries, they had ruled the galaxy with an iron fist, and now they were at the mercy of humanity. A species they had long underestimated, the human fleet, stood victorious as their ships hovered over the remnants of the Empire's forces. But the humans didn't celebrate. Instead, they remained focused and composed. The Empire's surviving commanders and soldiers were taken captive, their fate uncertain. The once proud fleets were now just debris floating in space, a testament to how far the Empire had fallen. But the humans had not come to destroy the Empire, they had come to reclaim what had been taken from them. And now the galaxy was going to witness the true power of humanity's resolve. The Empire had failed to understand the human spirit, the strength of a people who had been scattered and oppressed for generations, yet had never stopped fighting for their survival. They had endured countless wars and hardships, yet still had risen up to face the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever known. Now they were ready to rebuild, and the Empire was powerless to stop them. Humanity's fleet did not linger in the shattered remains of the Empire's forces. Instead, they began their journey toward the heart of the Empire itself. Their ships cut through space with the same precision they had used in every battle before. No longer was the Empire's might the thing that struck fear into the hearts of the galaxy. Now it was the humans who commanded that fear. The Empire's political leaders met in secrecy, trying to devise a plan to regain control. But it was already too late. The human forces had taken over the communication networks and broadcast their message across the entire galaxy. They had come to free the oppressed, to dismantle the Empire's control, and to bring peace to the galaxy. But they had no intention of allowing the Empire to rise again. As the human ships approached the capital of the Empire, the leaders of the Empire's remaining forces tried to rally their last defenses. The greatest war stations the Empire had ever constructed were deployed in an effort to protect their homeworld, but the humans were already steps ahead. Their fleet had already mapped out every weak point, and their attack strategy was flawless. In the shadow of the capital world, the Empire's remaining warships began to make their stand. But even as they gathered for what was surely their final battle, the humans didn't rush in recklessly. They moved with deliberate calmness, as if they knew the outcome before it began. Every move they made was calculated and precise, and with each passing hour the Empire's forces began to lose hope. The final assault came when the humans activated their most devastating weapon, yet a technology so advanced that it defied comprehension. With one swift blow, they cut through the Empire's greatest defense systems, rendering them useless. The capital city was left vulnerable and exposed to the human fleet's overwhelming might. The Empire had fought valiantly, but it was clear now that they had no chance of winning. Humanity's determination had proven to be their greatest weapon, and the galaxy had become a witness to the Empire's fall and the rise of a new power, one built not on fear and oppression, but on the strength of a people united in their cause. As the Empire's capital city lay in ruins, the remaining leaders were forced to confront the truth. Their once great empire was no more. It was hard to accept, but it was undeniable. Humanity had torn through their defenses with such ease that even the most hardened commanders were left in shock. The galaxy was no longer theirs, and they had no power to reclaim it. The humans stood outside the remnants of the capital, watching the destruction. Their fleet hovered with eerie calmness as the last vestiges of the Empire crumbled beneath them. But there was no celebration, no triumphant cheers. Instead, the human forces were silent, their resolve unshaken, as they surveyed the wreckage of the Empire that had once held the galaxy in its grasp. The leaders of the humans knew that this was just the beginning. The war may have been won, But the true challenge lay ahead. Rebuilding the galaxy after so many years of oppression was no simple task. There were countless worlds to heal and systems that needed guidance. The Empire's fall had created a vacuum, and the humans would need to fill that space with something greater than what had come before. Humanity's fleet began to spread across the galaxy to restore order and establish a new system of governance, one that would prioritize peace, cooperation, and freedom. It wasn't an easy task. The galaxy had been shattered by the Empire's rule, and there were many who still clung to the old ways. Some worlds resisted the new order, refusing to accept the humans as their rulers. But the human forces weren't there to rule, they were there to build. In every corner of the galaxy, human diplomats began to work tirelessly with the leaders of each system, negotiating peace and offering support to those who had suffered under imperial rule. The humans understood that their victory had come at a great cost, and it was now their responsibility to ensure that the galaxy would never fall back into tyranny again. There were challenges ahead, as there always are after great change, but the humans faced them with a determination that the Empire had never known. They were not invincible, but their strength came from their unity and their willingness to learn from each defeat. They had endured together and come out stronger for it. Despite the efforts to rebuild, however, the Empire's loyalists began to form pockets of resistance across the galaxy, small groups who refused to accept the new order. These remnants of the old regime were scattered and disorganized, but they were still dangerous enough to cause instability in certain regions. Their numbers were dwindling, but they weren't willing to give up without a fight. Humanity's leaders understood that the real work was just beginning. Keeping the peace required constant vigilance, but they also knew that they had the support of those who had longed for freedom. They had earned their place as the new guardians of the galaxy, and with each passing day, more systems joined their cause. The Empire's shadow still loomed over the galaxy, but it was no longer the force that controlled everything. Now it was the humans who determined the fate of the galaxy, and they were determined to make sure it never again fell under the rule of fear and oppression. The galaxy was still in the early stages of healing, but humanity had already proven that it was capable of leading. It wasn't easy. Many systems had resisted the new order, and the remnants of the Empire continued to stoke the flames of rebellion in secret. But the human resolve was unwavering. They had come to liberate the galaxy, and they would not be deterred by those who sought to return to the old ways. Humanity's leadership knew that rebuilding trust would take time. They worked tirelessly to ensure that their governance was transparent and fair. They didn't promise perfection, but they promised progress, and for the first time in centuries, the people of the galaxy were given hope that their voices would be heard and their futures would be in their own hands. With each passing day, more worlds joined the growing alliance under humanity's banner. Systems that had long been oppressed by the Empire now flourished as they embraced the new governance. The once feared Empire was no more. Its tyrannical rule replaced by a democratic system that allowed each world to maintain its autonomy while still working together for the greater good. Yet as peace began to settle over the galaxy, there were still those who questioned humanity's rise to power. Many viewed the humans' sudden dominance with suspicion and fear. They wondered if the humans would simply replace one form of tyranny with another. The galaxy had suffered under the Empire for centuries, and some could not easily forget the harshness they had endured. In response, humanity's leaders made efforts to reach out to those who still harbored doubts. They held public forums and open dialogues with the people of every world. They encouraged debate and discussion about the future of the galaxy and what role humanity would play in it. They understood that true peace could only be built on trust and mutual respect. But even as they worked to unite the galaxy, old threats began to emerge from the shadows. The remnants of the Empire's military forces had not disappeared entirely. They had scattered across the galaxy, regrouping in hidden systems and training new recruits. Their loyalty to the fallen regime was unshaken, and they waited for the right moment to strike. The human leadership knew that they could not afford to let these groups grow in power. Their intelligence networks had been working tirelessly to track down the pockets of resistance, but they were finding it difficult to root them out entirely. The remnants were scattered and elusive, always one step ahead. The leaders of humanity understood that this was the price of freedom. There would always be those who sought to return to the old ways, who would resist change, no matter how beneficial it might be for the greater good. But they also knew that they could not let fear guide their actions. They would confront these threats head-on as they had done with the Empire. The struggle was not over, but humanity had already proven that they were capable of facing any challenge. The galaxy was moving forward, and the remnants of the Empire would soon learn that they could no longer stand in the way of progress. The remnants of the Empire were more dangerous than humanity had anticipated. Their forces were scattered but well organized, and they had been quietly building strength in secret for years. The galaxy's new leadership knew that the threat they posed could not be ignored, and with every passing day the sense of unease grew stronger. Humanity's fleet had been spread across the galaxy, helping to maintain peace and stability, but now they were being called back to prepare for a final confrontation. The Empire's loyalists had begun to rally under a new banner. Their fleets, though smaller, were still formidable, and they were more determined than ever to reclaim what they had lost. Humanity's leadership knew that they could not afford to underestimate their enemy. The remnants were not only militarily dangerous, but they also had a deep-rooted ideology that sought to return the galaxy to its old ways. The propaganda they spread resonated with those who longed for the certainty of the Empire's rule and the security it had promised. The fight ahead would not be just one of military might. It would be a battle for the hearts and minds of the galaxy's people. Humanity had already shown that it could lead with compassion and fairness, but now it would need to prove that it could protect that peace against those who would tear it apart for the sake of power. As the human fleet mobilized for the final assault, the galaxy's people stood on edge. Some feared the return of the Empire's reign. Others believed that humanity was their last hope for freedom and prosperity. But there were also those who were torn in the middle, unsure of which side to trust. The final battle took place in the heart of the galaxy itself. The remnants of the Empire had gathered in force, hoping to reclaim their former glory, and with it the power to rule once more. The human fleet, though smaller, was unified and resolute. They knew that this was the moment that would define the future of the galaxy. The battle raged on for days, both sides trading blow after blow in a fight that seemed impossible to win. But the humans had learned from every previous battle. They had fought their ships, moved with precision and coordination, each strike calculated, and each defense impenetrable. The Empire's remnants fought with all the fury of a dying regime, but they could not match the spirit of humanity. They were divided, their resolve shattered, and slowly, piece by piece, their forces began to crumble. The humans didn't offer mercy, they offered justice for the atrocities committed in the name of the Empire. As the last of the remnants were defeated, humanity stood victorious, but they knew the true battle was far from over. The galaxy had been forever changed, and it would take time to heal. But the message was clear. Humanity had proven that they could not only defeat tyranny, but that they could unite the galaxy in the pursuit of a better future. The remnants were no more. Their dream of empire crushed, and humanity's place as the leaders of the galaxy was solidified. The victory was not just a triumph of strength, but of hope and resilience. A new era was beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same.